And welcome to today's event. I'm Action Associates Industry Marketing Specialist Jason Nackstead. In today's event, find out why A+ users are moving to Infor CloudSuite Distribution. Before we get going, a little about our webinar today. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see some icons. From there, you can ask questions, review any attached resources, schedule a demo, or find out for more information about our company or the Infor CloudSuite Distribution solution. At the end, you will have time for questions, and this will be recorded. So if there's something you think you may have missed, you can go ahead and watch that. About 24 to 48 hours, we'll have it up on our YouTube channel for you. Today's event will cover why Infor CloudSuite Distribution provides comprehensive end-to-end functionality that can help boost performance across your entire organization, manage thousands of transactions, suppliers, and customers, while also accommodating evolving buyer behaviors, controlling costs, and effectively tracking potentially millions of inventory items you need for an agile, modern distribution solution. Today's presenter, Rob Dallas, Senior Distribution Solutions Consultant, 30-plus years working with Infor Distribution products, and 15-plus years Solution Consultant with SXE and CloudSuite Distribution products. So, Rob, go ahead. Take it away, sir.
Thanks, Jason. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy days. This webinar will be about 30 minutes. We've got a few slides at the beginning, and then we'll spend about 15, 20 minutes in the software itself. So as far as our agenda goes, we're going to start reviewing distribution industry trends. And then I have a slide that I really like to compare and contrast CloudSuite Distribution, or often called CSD, and the Infor A+ product. Infor Distribution ERP solutions, and then finally the demo I talked about. Then also a little bit about the Action difference. Action Associates is the company that Jason and I work for. Infor, if you didn't know, is the author and manufacturer of CloudSuite Distribution as well as the A+ product. They have gone through some growth. If you're not familiar with them recently, they're now the third largest ERP company in the world. You can see their strong micro-vertical positions on the left side of the slide. But what's important to note is they're really striving to be leaders in technology and innovation. So how can users in the workforce leverage the same technology that they're used to utilizing in their daily lives and make their work life more enjoyable, make them more efficient? So some of the distribution trends for 2025, it seems like we've gotten back to the e-commerce revolution. Right? There's the rapid growth of e-commerce continues to reshape our distribution channels. Consumers increasingly prefer online shopping. And this has caused an increased need of an omni-channel as well as omni-fulfillment and direct-to-consumer models. The utilization of technology, both with artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and integrations. The changing customer expectations and personalization. Customers expect faster deliveries, personalized experiences, and flexible fulfillment options. So distributors are adapting by offering customized solutions, employing predictive analytics to anticipate customer needs, and incorporating last mile delivery innovations to meet evolving expectations. And as a distributor, the challenge you face today forced you to rethink how you do business. Old processes and approaches just don't cut it anymore. The essential mindset shift is for distributors to realize that technology is no longer a back office cost to manage, and that digital is a weapon they can leverage for competitive advantage upstream and downstream. Infor CSD is the ready-to-run solution built specifically to meet the needs of distributors, gives you deep proven capabilities in key areas such as inventory management, order processing, pricing and rebates, supply chain, procurement, value add, financials, and much more. So here's the slide where I like to compare and contrast some of CSD and A+. Of course, it runs in a browser on any device from anywhere. That could be a desktop, could be a laptop, could be a tablet, could be a phone. It is true responsive design. So the layout changes based on the real estate your device supports. You're not going to be scrolling left and right to get different areas of the screen. It will move things, let's say, to a drop-down menu. Real-time processing minimizes system downtime. A lot of older systems have file lockings, or you can't do function A if people are in doing function B, whatever that limitation might be. CloudSuite Distribution was built from the ground up for larger distributors, so you don't have that limitation. The optional analytics with predefined content. How can we take all that data that you have and turn it into useful information? And not just the tool itself, but also predefined and already developed content. So day one, you're off and running with the tool. Monthly updates versus upgrades. So again, instead of, when I used to work with older accounts, they would wait to upgrade when they needed a new server, needed new hardware, which could be 5, 7, 8-year plan. And then you're falling behind. You're not getting a return on your investment of those maintenance costs that you're paying for your ERP system. Now you get monthly updates. So patches and fixes, and then also every 6 months, new features, new functionality, new technology are added to the product. It's a new expense option. So it's operational expense versus a capital expense. Continuously evolving software with extended product roadmap. This is important. CloudSuite Distribution is Infor's flagship distribution product going forward, where they're investing all their dollars in new functionality and new technology. And then the last one I think is very important as well. Minimize the rest of IT skill shortages for legacy software and databases. There's not always going to be people around that know the A+ system, the A+ coding languages, the database structure. Right? New employees that we're hiring in the younger generation, they're gravitating towards the next gen product and leveraging the new technology. Some of the deep out of the box functionality, very good at handling non-stocks and different variations of non-stocks that you can have in CSD. Multi-warehouse, again, built for distributors from the ground up. We have companies that are 40, 50 locations, hundreds of users processing thousands of orders a day. Whether that's just one warehouse, whether it's distribution centers, like by location, you define what the replenishment path is for that item at that location. Extensive search options, it makes the users more efficient. Invoice consolidation, native document management included with your subscription and has a very tight integration, which you'll see. And vendor rebates. It's not a product, but a service. Again, this is the CloudSuite advantage. When it's on-prem, you own the hardware, the software, infrastructure, security, et cetera, maintenance. CloudSuite, you just own the data. Payment structure, again, one-off capital purchases with versus storage and computing as used. Innovation, again, get access to the latest each month. Security, best-in-class security versus relying on your own IT department. And integration and implementation, you're really on your own, whereas with CloudSuite, there's a predefined suite across the enterprise. So with that, let me share my screen. Give me 1 second here. And toggle over to my Edge browser. Now, when I do these webinars, I usually like to start with a sales scenario in the limited time that we have, and 3 aspects of a sales scenario. Customer calls wanting to check on availability and what their price is for a product, the status of an order or quote, and maybe also attaching a digital document to an order. And then finally placing a new order. So we're going to start with going into what's called the customer pricing inquiry. So I could go into the main menu, and what's nice is users only see the options that you've granted them security to access. I could enter in the access code or use a favorite that I have for that function, or I could just type in what I'm trying to do. In this case, I know it's pricing lookup, so I type in pricing and I see all functions that contain those characters. Now, one thing you'll notice, whenever I click in a field, it shows me my recently used. Those are called MRUs, most recently used. It sounds simple, but it really does increase efficiencies across the enterprise. No longer are we jotting things down on a yellow scratch pad or yellow sticky notes. I'm sure you see a lot of those if you walk around your office today. Again, it's trying, no matter what field you're clicking on, CSD is trying to stay 1 step ahead. Lookups are very straightforward, very simple, and again, fast. You just type in, what do you know? Do you know part of the account number? Do you know part of the name? The more characters you give it, it narrows down your search results. Maybe you have a DID phone system, so the incoming number is displayed. You could type that in and it would find the corresponding customer. Maybe you know their address, their zip code, a contact's name. Anything you can enter related to the account, and again, this quick look or autocomplete will list the accounts that hit that criteria. Same with product lookups. Right? Let's look for a grill. Well, we have a lot of different grills, so let's narrow it down to our built-ins. And similar to a Google lookup or search, at the top I see any items that contain either or of the words I entered. Again, sequence doesn't matter. And then below I have any that contain one of the words that I entered. I also get to see what I have available before I even proceed. Now let's say you have 50 different built-in grills. There is this advanced search or lookup that you can launch. And now I have a window here. You can see product images, a short description, current availability, a 256 character extended description, all of which is part of your lookups and searches. So you could have any attributes, dimensions, even slang terms that are used to help your employees find products for your customers. I'm going to go ahead and select a grill. And the first thing you notice before we look at some of the information is there's a nice pretty picture of the item. Throughout the system, there are areas where we're going to see product images. But let's say we're somewhere where there's not an image, or you want to see an ancillary document to this product. Maybe a spec sheet, for example. We haven't talked about it yet, but over on the right is what's called the Smart panel. Okay? It says multiple purposes. Smart help is great whenever you are. You can get help in any of the functions related to that screen. But also it's the widgets or intelligent web parts. And these are objects that are monitoring what you're doing and providing additional information. So they're dynamically changing based on what you're working with, what customer are you using, what item are you working with. So right now, if I change in the document management web part to customer, I could see any documents related to customer 3020, which is our Northern Supply customer. It could be tax exempt form, credit application, et cetera. I could also filter out by product and just see documents related to the specific product I'm working with. Maybe this spec sheet, right? Maybe, and I could email it right from this web part as well. Maybe I want to see that product image. There's multiple web parts, and you decide which ones as a user you want to have active. You know, maybe I want to see notes by the customer, the item, the order, maybe activities, follow-ups, and many others that you can have. You can leave this panel open. Most users keep it closed to gain the additional real estate, but let's say you have one of those environments where you have dual screens, dual monitors. You can actually pop this out onto your secondary screen, and again, it's going to dynamically change real time and provide additional information based on what you're working with over on the left within the main ERP. So just remember, it's always there, additional information. Here we see current availability, the list price of this item, and then what is the today price for Northern Supply for this item. One thing to note here is notice the field is green. I personalize this screen just for me. So for an individual user or for a group of users, it's role-based, or company-wide, you can personalize the user interface. We can hide fields, you can move fields, you can relabel fields, you can change the color of fields, you can even, through extensibility, add new fields. Maybe it's a new radio set or radio button on the customer record. Those are things you're able to do without that taboo term modifications. Here, of course, we can increase the quantity to see what kind of quantity breaks we can get, look at different units of measure. Maybe I want to look at what I have in different locations, right? Which I have quick access to, and I can filter that by zone or region. Maybe I want to see what I have in my Southeast warehouses. I can also open up a worksheet where I can do some what if type scenarios, different cost plus, list less, margin percent or amount, negotiations with the customer. And if I have security to do so, I could even create the contract right here on the fly. But as you're working with items, maybe your customer is asking about multiple items. So in between each, you can hit this record price option. And at the conclusion, they may ask for a quote on what you just discussed. Well, that's as simple as hitting this create quote button. A quote is automatically created in the system, and you can email right from CSD. So you don't have to jump into quote entry and try to remember, you know, the 3, 5, 10 items that you just reviewed with the customer and what pricing did you settle on and agree to. That's all been recorded as you're navigating through each product. So let's say the second part of our scenario is they have a question on an open order quote. So we are going to jump into order inquiry. Again, I could enter in an OEIO or just type in order inquiry. If I knew the number, I could enter it, or look at a recently visited, but I'm going to use the advanced search that all the inquiries have. And notice my default UI, my user experience here, only has 7 fields enabled. One of Infor's philosophies is to keep screens simple and clean. They don't want the system to seem cumbersome or complicated. But that's just my default. Maybe in this scenario, I need to turn on additional fields, a date range, maybe by product, maybe by reference field, maybe by transaction types. And notice, due to the technology and the underlying in the browser UI, it just changed the user experience. And you can save what your preferences are. So every time you come into this inquiry, it'll have the fields that you most commonly use. You could have saved searches, again, by user. So maybe as a sales rep, I want quick access to my open orders and my open quotes, or maybe my largest customers' orders, or maybe a specific job that I'm constantly working on. For my example, I'm just going to look for a specific part of a customer PO. And now, see, we get multiple hits. One thing we haven't talked about yet, whenever you see a blue underline, a hyperlink, that gives you the ability to drill down or drill across. So by clicking on the customer number, notice it opens up another function, right? You can see the different tabs here at the top that I could go between. It took me right into customer inquiry for that customer. And that's throughout the system. So if you see a journal number and you want to drill down and do an audit of that journal posting, you can do so, or an item inquiry, which I'll show you in a second. Let's drill down into this order. Now we see an overview, some visual representations of the margin and cost information, a visual representation of what stage the order's in as it transitions through the system. But also at the top, under these sub-tabs, under line detail, I can see the body of the order. And this is the grid in CSD. All list views and search results have the grid and has some nice functionality built into it. Again, as I mentioned, any hyperlink, you could drill across or drill down, if you will. So I could go in and look at item, product inquiry for that item. You can sort by any column by clicking on the header. You can rearrange the columns in any way you want, because most grids have 30, 40, 60 columns. And if you have security to see cost, that might be important to you. So you might want to slide that column over next to price. And every time you go into this view, into this order inquiry, the layout will be how you set it, because that's your preference. Okay. You also can take any grid and export it to Excel. Comes over nicely formatted with filtering already established. Or right here in the ERP itself, you have the ability to turn on filtering. So what that means is I'm looking at this 80-line order. Maybe I just want to see my tab extensions. So I could take the description field and filter out whether it contains, begins with, etc. And I could quickly filter out my tab extensions. And that's on any column in any grid. So maybe by product category, you want to filter out the lines. Maybe your non-stock items, maybe by manufacturer or vendor. So again, any column in any grid throughout the system, you have that nice filtering capability. All right, the third part of our scenario is, luckily, the customer wants to place a new order, right? So I could go to the menu or an access code, but Infor's added all the inquiries, these quick launches, so I could go print this order, I could copy it to a new order, or I could just enter in a new order. And notice when I click on the customer field, again, it knew who we were working with, so I don't have to do that lookup or write it down anymore. I'm going to start a new order. The orientation is left to right, so my header or banner is over here on the left, product selections in the middle, and my footer's over here on the right. There are multiple ways to find products, and each user sets their default preference. And so every time I go into order entry, this is called easy entry. I like it because, let me pull up some items here. I type in LED light. It resembles what I'm used to doing in my personal life on, let's say, Amazon. I get product images. I get a nice short description. I see current stock, current availability, my today price, right? Going through all our contracts and our pricing records. But what's also nice about this product selection is you might get multiple hits that the customer is interested in. And by just setting multiple quantities for those items, now with one single action, I can add all 3 of those items to the order. And if I was finished, I could hit finish and be out of this order in 3 or 4 seconds. But we're going to do some additional processing because maybe this customer wants to buy something they purchased 6 months ago. So we're going to toggle to another entry method called shopping. And in this case, we're going to shop off past sales. So for any time period, we can quickly get a list a simple list, so it's showing each item once of the products that they purchased in that time frame. You see current availability, their today price going through all our contracts, the last purchase date, the last price. This recommended quantity is the last quantity they purchased from you. And again, a ton of additional information that you may want to pull over to the left if needed. You could do a search using a magnifying glass. We could use, filtering on the grid like we talked about. But what makes this grid unique is it's actually an order pad. So you have the ability to, with your mouse or character turn and arrow keys, go through and set the quantity on multiple lines that they're interested in. And then again, with one single action, I can add those lines to my order. Okay? And that's a list driving off past sales. We can also drive off of promotional products, maybe dead stock that you're pushing, maybe models that are being replaced. And we're really good at managing those with supersede items. And there's some rules governing how those are handled. You have to sell the old model first, sell out of it first, and the history is moved from the old to the new for replenishment calculations. We can have custom lists where you group like products or for certain types of customers, or even customer specific product lists. The other entry method I quickly want to show you is advanced. And this probably resembles what you're used to doing in A+, where I can go into a stock, non-stock special order line. Again, simple and clean screen, but there is much more information under extended fields, right? You could always jump into and get any of these fields. So let's say cost and discount, I'm always utilizing. Well, just for me as my user, you could drag and put those, let's say, on this main panel. So again, how best can the UI be managed, customized for each user to make them as efficient as possible? And again, it could be by individual user, role-based for groups of users, or company-wide, and you have security around who can change what. Okay? I'm going to just go ahead and start adding an item by entering a SKU. Right? Can add it to that item. If I just want quantity 1, I just hit carriage return. Or I start typing in something related to an item. Maybe this time I want a frame, and I'm going to tab a couple of times over because I want 3 frames. And now when I add this item, watch what happens. It actually took me to another screen because this item has been defined with optional products, accessories, or companion items. So you're able to offer your customer, do you want rollers, hardware, or belting? So again, very quickly, I can, yes, I want some hardware, right? Change 3 of those, and maybe we'll just leave the belting here at 10 feet. And then once you hit submit, all 3 of those items were automatically added to the order. I mentioned at any time you can hit finish to exit the order. You could also click up here at the top under taxes and totals, review the taxes and totals that you have on the order. You can manually manage your tax jurisdictions, or we do have a very good integration to Avalara, right, if that's something you want to look into. You could also select collect payment. Maybe we want to deposit a percentage or dollar amount that would automatically be applied once this order is invoiced. We can have multiple payment types on an order. Maybe they're paying some by check, some by credit card. Fully integrated credit card system meets all the latest federal PCI requirements, so it's tokenized, so the credit card information is not actually in your system. Or as we mentioned, it could just hit finish. It's going to go through any rules that you have. Of course, it's going to check credit limit, but it's also going to check, let's say if this user could manipulate pricing, you can put margin tolerances on each user, so fences around what they can do. And if the order happened to go outside those fences, then of course it would go on hold. Then you might have a workflow defined. So what is the best practice in your organization? Who gets alerted? Maybe it's their sales manager, or if it's an order over a certain dollar amount, it goes to someone else. And that could just be a notification, or it could be tasks that they receive. Okay. So those were the 3 scenarios that I wanted to review with you in the time that we had. In summary, again, Infor is very distribution focused. This is their flagship distribution product, where they're investing their money in new distribution functionality, but more importantly, on how can we leverage new technology and innovation. A little bit about Action Associates, who Jason and I work for. We are Infor's largest partner, 25-year running gold partner. We've won their Circle of Excellence Award. We support over 700 of their distribution customers with expertise in distribution, light manufacturing, warehousing, and e-commerce skills. We employ over 225 employees across the country, so we're able to offer full software support from 8 a.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Pacific. But not only ERP support, we also have many additional offerings. So it's our goal to be your one-stop need for any of your IT needs. Okay, let me take a second. I think I saved a few minutes, Jason. I'll throw it back to you to see if we have any questions.
Yeah, I think you got everyone's questions answered. That was incredibly thorough. Thank you, Rob. Reminder, if there is anything you think you may have missed, this will be recorded. So check back out our YouTube channel. About 24 to 48 hours, we'll have this whole video up so you can go back through it at your leisure. For any other things you think you may need, we have a landing page built just for distributors like you. Register for any upcoming events that we may be hosting, case studies, white papers, and customer success stories to get your questions answered. Once again, thank you for everyone for attending today. We know your day is incredibly busy, so we thank you for your time that you spent with us this afternoon. Get a hold of Rob Dallas himself to schedule a demo for your company or ask any other questions you think you may have at RDALLAS at action.com. I'm Jason Naxton with Action Associates, Industry Marketing Specialist. You can reach out to me at JKNACKSTEDT at action.com as well. So make sure you reach out with anything you think you may need, and we'll see you next time, everyone. Thank you. Have a lovely day. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.